When writing PHP scripts, we're always dealing with different types of data. So far, we've used strings and numbers and assigned them to variables. Each of those have their own specific data type, and there are several other data types that you can use with PHP. I'd like to take a look at them here today. When we assign a value to a variable, the value always has a data type. These values are stored in memory, and different data types take up different amounts of memory. First, we have integers. An integer is just a whole number, and it can be positive or negative. 1, 5, -54, etc. You declare a variable as a number by just declaring the number with no quotes. This can include calculations as well. As long as you wind up with a whole number, it will be an integer. Similar to this is a float. A float is a number with a decimal, 1.27, -3.34, and so on. You can declare this the same as with a number, except you need to include the decimal. This can seem similar to concatenation, but it all has to do with spacing. If you were to write 2.5, notice there are no spaces between the numbers and the decimal. It echoes out 2.5, the float. If you were to put spaces, it will concatenate the two integers, echoing out 25. Notice when there's no space, the period is red, signaling that this is a decimal and that this number is a float. With spaces, the period turns blue, signifying concatenation. Of course, this is because I'm using Dreamweaver. Depending on what program you use, you may or may not have code coloring like this. Next, we have strings. A string is a series of characters. It can contain letters, numbers, or punctuation. You can declare a string by surrounding it with single or double quotes. The next data type is Boolean. A Boolean is either true or false. This is useful for a switch, to check if something is either on or off. If you're creating a game, has the player completed level 1 or not? Is today Monday or not? These answers can only be true or false, and they would be best suited to be Booleans. To declare a Boolean, just type true or false in lowercase with no quotes. Just true or false. Next, we have null. A null value is kind of like false, but different. Null means that the variable has been declared, but not initialized yet. It has no value. You can set a variable back to null after it's been declared by setting it to null in all caps. The last three data types we'll cover more in depth in the future, but I'll just mention them briefly. An array is an ordered set of keys and values. It's kind of like a variable with multiple values stored inside of it. You can have different data types stored in one array, or even an array full of arrays. Next is an object. An object is an instance of a class. We'll also discuss this later. Finally, the last type is resource. This is a link to a third-party resource, such as a database. That covers the data types that we'll be using. Just knowing how to use these will help you understand PHP and how to effectively use it to accomplish what you want to do. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.